Husband asked for divorce in front of everyone, but her response left them all speechless. In a bustling city filled with glitzy skyscrapers and the constant hum of life, Sarah found herself standing at the crossroads of her life. She was married to Alex, a successful businessman whose charm and ambition had drawn her in from the start. But as the years went by, the glimmer of their romance began to dim, and the marriage became a facade, one that was beginning to crack. The couple was attending a charity gala, a high-profile event where the city's elite gathered to flaunt their wealth and connections. Sarah wore a stunning navy blue gown that hugged her curves and sparkled under the chandelier's light. She felt beautiful, but there was a knot in her stomach, an unease that she couldn't shake off. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers circulated about Alex, who had been increasingly distant, spending late nights at the office and avoiding Sarah's attempts to connect. Their friends exchanged glances, some with concern and others with intrigue, but no one dared to mention it out loud. After dinner, the event organizer, a well-known socialite named Laura, stood at the podium to announce the next segment of the evening. A charity auction. With a smile that could light up the room, she encouraged everyone to bid generously. But just as she was about to introduce the first item, Alex rose from his seat. The room went silent. All eyes turned to him, curious and slightly apprehensive. He cleared his throat, his face pale but resolute. "I have something to say," he began, his voice steady yet filled with an unusual weight. "Tonight I want to address the truth about my life. After much consideration, I have decided to file for divorce." Gasps echoed around the room. Sarah's heart dropped. The murmurs escalated, curiosity morphing into shock as Alex continued. "I believe it's in our best interest to part ways. I no longer feel that our marriage is what I need. I deserve happiness. And so does Sarah." Sarah felt as if the floor had opened beneath her. Friends and acquaintances looked on, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and sympathy. She could hear her heart pounding in her ears, drowning out the noise of the gala. But she knew she couldn't let this moment define her. Taking a deep breath, Sarah rose to her feet, her eyes locked on Alex. "You think I'll let you just walk away without a fight?" she replied, her voice trembling slightly but firm. "You're mistaken. You owe me an explanation, not just to me but to everyone here." The crowd seemed to lean in, eager to witness what would unfold next. "You've spent years building a life together, and now you're throwing it away in front of everyone like it meant nothing." Alex faltered for a moment, caught off guard by her reaction. "Sarah, please," he started, but she raised her hand to silence him. "No, you don't get to do this to me. You may think you're making a clean break, but you're not. You're abandoning everything we built together, and I deserve more than this public humiliation." There was a long pause, tension crackling in the air. Alex's confident facade began to crumble as he realized the depth of his actions. As Sarah stood there, a wave of determination washed over her. She glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of their friends, who were now thoroughly invested in the drama unfolding before them. "I won't let you walk out like this. I demand the respect we owe each other. I want to know why you've made this decision, and I want everyone to hear it." The audience shifted, murmurs of support beginning to ripple through the crowd. "Sarah," Alex pleaded, his voice softer now, "we can talk about this later." "No, we talk about it now," she insisted, her heart racing but her resolve solid. "You owe me that much." As the tension hung in the air, Laura, sensing the gravity of the moment, stepped back into the spotlight. "I think we should allow Sarah to speak. This is clearly a significant moment for both of them, and it deserves the attention of everyone present." With a nod from Laura, Sarah turned back to Alex. "You may think you're ready to walk away, but I won't let you do this without fighting for what we had. What happened to our dreams? The plans we made? Did they mean nothing to you?" Alex shifted uncomfortably, his bravado fading. "It's just, I feel trapped, Sarah. I thought marrying you would bring me fulfillment, but instead it feels suffocating. I've tried to explain, but every time I bring it up, you dismiss me. I can't live like this anymore." His words were like daggers, cutting through the remnants of her heart. So instead of having an adult conversation, you choose this public spectacle? You think this is what I deserve? I've been by your side through everything, and this is how you repay me? As the crowd remained silent, Sarah's emotions began to swell. You didn't just abandon me. You abandoned our family, our hopes, and everything we ever dreamed of together. What do you want, Alex? Is it someone else? A flicker of guilt crossed his face. No, it's not like that. I need space. Space? Space for what? Sarah pressed, her voice rising. Space to figure out how to walk away from everything we built? Or space to figure out how to run away with someone else? Alex shook his head, frustration evident. You don't understand. I feel like I'm losing myself in this marriage. Then let's find you again together, Sarah countered, her voice trembling. Let's work through this. Don't throw it all away. In that moment, a silence descended upon the room, thick with unresolved tension. Sarah looked around, seeing the concern on her friends' faces, the disbelief in their eyes. It was clear that no one had anticipated such a public confrontation, and now they were all witnesses to this painful unraveling. Maybe I've made mistakes, Alex finally admitted, his voice quieter. But I can't be what you want anymore. Sarah could feel her heart shattering, yet something stirred within her. She refused to let this be the end of her story, nor the end of the life they once dreamed about. You think you're the only one who feels lost? She said, her voice steadying. I've felt it too, but running away isn't the answer. Suddenly, a woman from the crowd stepped forward, someone Sarah recognized as a mutual friend named Jenna. What if you both took some time apart? You can see how you feel without the pressure of the marriage, she suggested, her tone gentle but firm. Sarah paused, considering the idea. Maybe time apart could help us reflect, she said slowly. Alex nodded, finally appearing more receptive. I'd be willing to consider that. As the weight of the situation began to shift, Laura stepped forward again. How about we take this outside? The gala is for charity, and I think this conversation deserves a more private setting. As the crowd began to disperse, Sarah felt a rush of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of healing instead of the end. She turned to Alex. We owe it to ourselves to find out what went wrong, and if we can make it right. I'm not ready to give up yet. With a reluctant nod, Alex seemed to soften. Okay, let's talk. Just us. As they made their way outside, the night air felt cooler, the stars shining above like distant hopes. It was time to confront the shadows that had loomed over their relationship, to delve into the depths of their struggles and rediscover what had once bound them together. Though the road ahead would be challenging, they both understood the significance of that moment, one filled with pain, but also the glimmer of hope. They walked side by side, ready to face their future, whatever it might hold. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a flicker of optimism. Perhaps this wasn't the end, after all, but rather a new beginning. As Sarah and Alex stepped outside, the cool evening air enveloped them, a refreshing contrast to the tense atmosphere of the gala. The distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses faded as they moved further away from the gathering, seeking a more private space to delve into the complexities of their marriage. They found themselves in a small courtyard adorned with twinkling fairy lights strung across the trees, creating a serene ambience. The gentle rustling of leaves and the distant hum of traffic provided a backdrop for their conversation. Sarah leaned against a railing, her heart still racing from the whirlwind of emotions. I don't want to fight anymore, Alex, she said, her voice softer now. I just want to understand why we've drifted apart. Alex ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. It's not that simple. I feel like I've lost my identity over the years. It's like I've become someone I don't even recognize anymore. The pressures of work, expectations, everything. It's suffocating. Then let's talk about it, Sarah urged, her eyes searching his for sincerity. What pressures are we talking about? What expectations do you feel trapped by? He hesitated, his gaze drifting to the ground. I've been working long hours to maintain the lifestyle we have. Everyone expects me to succeed, to keep climbing the corporate ladder. But I never signed up for this life. It just sort of happened. And I don't want to drag you down with me. "That's not fair to yourself or to me," she replied gently. "I didn't marry you for your job or your income. I married you because I loved you and believed in us. We were a team. You can talk to me. I want to help you." Alex looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of pain and vulnerability. "I didn't want to burden you with my problems. You've always been the strong one, the one who kept everything together. I thought if I just worked harder, things would get better." "But they haven't," Sarah said softly. "You've been shutting me out for too long. We both need to make an effort to communicate. This isn't just about your happiness. It's about ours." He sighed heavily, running his fingers over the railing. "I guess I thought maybe if I left, you'd find someone who could make you happier, someone who wouldn't weigh you down." The mention of leaving sent a pang through Sarah's heart. "Why do you think I would want that? I chose you, Alex, and I still believe in us. But you need to let me in. If you want space, then we can take a break. But I don't want it to turn into a goodbye." Silence hung between them for a moment, heavy with unspoken words. Alex's expression softened, and Sarah could see the conflict within him, his desire to protect her, clashing with his own feelings of inadequacy. "Maybe we need to figure out how to rebuild this," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to end this on bad terms, but I don't know how to fix what's broken." Sarah's heart swelled with hope. "We can try counseling, talk through our issues, and set new goals together. We don't have to do this alone." He nodded slowly, his resolve strengthening. "I'd be willing to try that. I don't want to be the reason you're unhappy, and I don't want to walk away from everything we built." "Then let's start fresh," Sarah said, a small smile breaking through her earlier tension. "It's going to take time, but we can find our way back to each other." They stood together for a moment, the weight of the world slowly lifting from their shoulders. With renewed determination, they returned to the gala, ready to face their friends and family, no longer burdened by secrets or resentment. As they re-entered the grand hall, a sense of unity washed over them. Sarah felt a newfound strength in their bond, and she could see it reflected in Alex's eyes. He took her hand, squeezing it gently, a silent promise that they were in this together. Their friends greeted them with cautious smiles, their expressions shifting from concerned relief as they sensed the change in the couple. Laura approached them, her face lighting up with curiosity. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice low. "We're going to work on things," Sarah replied, her confidence shining through. "We realize that we've both been holding on to too much for too long." Laura nodded, clearly pleased. "That's great to hear. I knew you two could figure it out. It just takes time, right?" As the evening continued, Sarah and Alex moved through the crowd, engaging with their friends and participating in the charity auction. Laughter returned to their interactions, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a glimmer of joy amid the uncertainty. But as they prepared to leave the gala, the evening took an unexpected turn. Sarah noticed a group of reporters gathered outside, their cameras flashing as they huddled around a familiar figure, none other than Alex's business partner, Tom. He was making headlines for a controversial deal that had recently fallen through. "Alex! Sarah!" Tom shouted, spotting them in the crowd. "You won't believe what just happened. I think I'm about to get in serious trouble, and I need your help." The reporters swarmed around them, eager to capture every moment. Sarah exchanged a wary glance with Alex, sensing the weight of the situation. "What do you mean?" Alex asked, stepping closer to Tom, protective instincts kicking in. "What's going on?" Tom took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair in agitation. "There's been a leak about our project, something involving illegal practices that I didn't even know about until now. If this gets out, it could ruin everything we've worked for. I need you to back me up." "Are you saying you're being accused of something you didn't do?" Alex pressed, incredulous. "Exactly. I didn't authorize any of those actions, but now it looks like I'm in the hot seat. If the board finds out, I'll lose everything." The reporters moved closer, cameras flashing, their voices overlapping in a chaotic frenzy. Alex looked torn, glancing at Sarah, who felt a mix of concern and disbelief. "Tom, Are you sure you want to get involved in this? Sarah asked cautiously. It could drag us into the spotlight in ways we don't want. I wouldn't ask if I didn't think it was serious, Tom insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. I need allies, and you both know how the media works. If they can get a good story, they will. We can't let this become public. Sarah felt the tension in the air shift as Alex considered the gravity of the situation. He glanced back at Sarah, searching for guidance. What do you think? He asked, his voice low. It sounds risky, she replied, biting her lip. But if you trust Tom, maybe it's worth investigating further. We can't let an accusation ruin his career if he's innocent. Alex nodded slowly, but the uncertainty lingered in his eyes. Let's get out of here and talk privately, he said, leading Tom away from the reporters. As they stepped into a nearby alley, the noise of the gala faded, replaced by the echoes of their own thoughts. Tom explained the details of the allegations, how someone within their organization had leaked sensitive information to competitors, and how it could spiral into a scandal that would threaten the integrity of the entire company. Let's gather evidence, Alex suggested. We need to find out who's behind this and clear your name. We can't let a rumor become reality. Sarah felt a surge of determination. We'll do this together. We can figure out the details, but we need to act fast before it spirals out of control. They spent the next few hours huddled together, piecing together a plan. The night was filled with heated discussions and whispered strategies as they formulated a way to investigate the situation without drawing too much attention. With their focus shifting from personal struggles to the crisis at hand, Sarah and Alex found themselves working side by side again, united by a common goal. As they navigated through the chaos, Sarah could see the spark of determination return to Alex's eyes, rekindling the passion that had once fueled their relationship. As dawn approached, the three of them had gathered enough information to start digging deeper into the matter. They agreed to meet again the following day to explore potential leads, promising to keep each other updated throughout the day. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, Sarah reassured them both. That morning, as they prepared to part ways, Sarah felt a sense of renewed purpose. The challenge ahead would test their resolve, but it also opened the door to healing. The situation had shifted the focus from their troubled marriage to a shared mission, igniting a spark of connection between them. As they embraced and said their goodbyes, Sarah felt a surge of hope. They were no longer just a couple on the brink of divorce. They were partners again, standing side by side against the challenges life threw at them. The sun rose over the city, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, a symbol of new beginnings. With determination coursing through her veins, Sarah knew that together they could overcome whatever obstacles lay ahead. The journey wouldn't be easy, but as long as they had each other, anything felt possible. With the weight of the world still ahead of them, Sarah held on to the belief that their story was far from over. It was merely the beginning. Sarah couldn't shake the sense of purpose that had ignited within her. The tension from the gala felt like a distant memory now, replaced by a renewed determination to help Alex and Tom navigate the storm that had suddenly engulfed them. With the first rays of sunlight spilling over the horizon, she felt as if the world was offering them a fresh start, one that was desperately needed. The following day, Sarah arrived at the office early. The sleek, modern building stood tall against the skyline, but to her it felt more like a fortress, one that housed secrets waiting to be uncovered. She made her way to Alex's office where they had agreed to meet. The atmosphere inside was charged with anticipation, a shared understanding that their lives were about to take an unexpected turn. "Good morning," Alex greeted her, his voice slightly hoarse from lack of sleep. He was seated at his desk, poring over documents strewn across the surface, looking like a man who hadn't rested in days. "Morning," Sarah replied, her heart swelling at the sight of him. "You didn't sleep much, did you?" "I couldn't stop thinking about everything," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "We need to figure out who's behind this leak and what exactly they have. Tom's worried they've already got enough to damage him." Sarah leaned against the desk, scanning the documents he had laid out. "Let's start by reviewing everything from the last few weeks, emails, project reports, anything that could have been shared outside of the company." They dove into the investigation together, poring over spreadsheets and internal communications. The hours flew by as they combed through every detail, analyzing potential vulnerabilities within the organization. They discussed Tom's recent projects, his interactions with different departments, and anyone who might have had access to sensitive information. Suddenly, Sarah's eyes caught on an email chain that seemed out of place. "Wait a second," she said, pointing to the screen. "Look at this conversation between Tom and the IT department. There's a mention of a security update that was implemented without the usual protocols." Alex frowned as he leaned closer to read the details. "That's strange. Why would they bypass the usual checks? This could be a major oversight. Or someone trying to cover their tracks," Sarah suggested, feeling a chill run down her spine. If someone knew about the security holes, they could have easily exploited them. They printed out the email and decided to confront Tom with this new information. When they met him later that day, Tom's eyes widened as they explained their findings. "This is bad," he said, pacing the room. "If someone on the inside is involved, it could mean that the leak is much deeper than I thought." Alex placed a reassuring hand on Tom's shoulder. "We'll figure it out. Let's start by talking to the IT department directly. They might have records of who accessed the system during that time." The three of them made their way to the IT department, where they found Mark, the head of IT, hunched over his desk, staring intently at multiple screens. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes as he saw them approaching. "Hey, what's going on?" Mark asked, his brow furrowing. "We need your help," Sarah said, stepping forward. "There's been a breach of sensitive information, and we believe it may be linked to a recent security update. Can you check the access logs for us?" Mark nodded, his expression turning serious. "Of course. I can pull the logs from the last month. If someone accessed confidential files without proper clearance, it should show up." As Mark began to work, Sarah and Alex exchanged glances, a shared understanding passing between them. They were in this together, and the trust that had been rebuilt was palpable. After several tense minutes, Mark turned back to them, his face pale. "There's something here. Look at this," he said, pointing to the screen. "There's a user account that accessed several sensitive files, and it shouldn't have been able to." "Who is it?" Tom asked, his voice trembling slightly. "It's under a pseudonym, but the IP address traces back to someone in the company's finance department," Mark replied, shaking his head in disbelief. "That's not good." "What are you saying?" Sarah pressed. "Are you telling us that someone in finance is behind this?" Mark nodded grimly. "It's possible. I can dig deeper, but it looks like they used a VPN to mask their location." "Can you get the name associated with that IP?" Alex asked, urgency creeping into his tone. "I'll do my best," Mark said, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he began to pull up more information. As they waited, the air grew heavy with tension, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Sarah felt her mind racing. Who could it be? What was their motivation? Finally, Mark turned to them, his expression grave. "I've got a name. It's Amanda Hargrove. She's been with the company for over 5 years and works directly with the finance team." "Does she have any connection to Tom?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "Not that I know of, but we should definitely look into her background. I can give you access to her emails if you think that will help," Mark offered. "Yes, please," Alex said, determination replacing the fear that had gripped him moments before. "We need to find out what she knows and if she has any ties to the leak." As they gathered their things, a newfound sense of purpose surged within them. This was not just about protecting Tom's career anymore. It was about uncovering a web of deceit that threatened to ruin everything they had worked for. The following hours were a blur of activity. They divided their tasks. Sarah delved into Amanda's emails, while Alex and Tom conducted interviews with the finance team, probing for any signs of misconduct. Sarah quickly discovered that Amanda had been involved in a series of transactions that looked suspicious. Emails indicated she had been in contact with external sources, discussing company information that should have remained confidential. Her heart raced as she realized they were on to something significant. "Amanda is involved in several questionable dealings," Sarah relayed to Alex and Tom when they regrouped. "She's been communicating with people outside the company, and some of it looks like insider trading." Tom's face darkened. "That explains the leak. If she's been feeding information to competitors, it's not just a simple breach, it's a betrayal. Do you think she's acting alone? Alex asked, brow furrowed. I can't say for sure, Sarah replied, but we need to confront her and find out what she knows. If she's involved in something bigger, we have to be careful. They formulated a plan, agreeing to set up a meeting with Amanda under the guise of discussing her recent projects. As they prepared for the confrontation, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of unearthing something much more significant than they had anticipated. The next day, they arranged to meet Amanda in a conference room, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. When she entered, Sarah felt a rush of unease. Amanda's confident demeanor and polished appearance belied the turmoil lurking beneath the surface. Thanks for meeting with us, Alex said, keeping his tone professional. We wanted to discuss some of your recent projects and get your insights on a few financial strategies. Of course, Amanda replied, her smile unfaltering. I'm happy to help. As they began the conversation, Sarah and Alex exchanged subtle glances, each gauging the other's thoughts. They probed for information, guiding the discussion towards recent transactions and Amanda's role in them. But Amanda was evasive, skillfully dodging their inquiries. Each time they attempted to press her on the suspicious emails, she deflected, her confidence unshakable. Finally, Sarah decided to shift tactics. We've noticed some discrepancies in the transactions coming from your department, she said, her voice steady. Can you explain why you've been in contact with outside parties? Amanda's expression flickered momentarily, but she quickly regained her composure. I don't see how that's relevant. My job involves liaising with various stakeholders, and I can assure you that all communication is above board. Can you provide us with proof of those communications? Alex asked, his gaze steady. At that, Amanda's smile faltered, revealing a glimmer of concern. Why are you asking this? I thought we were discussing financial strategies, not interrogating my professional integrity. We're trying to protect the company, Sarah interjected, her voice calm but firm. If there's a leak, we need to address it before it spirals out of control. The tension in the room thickened as Amanda's facade began to crack. I don't have to answer to you, she snapped, her voice rising. You have no right to question my actions. Actually, we do, Alex retorted, his patience wearing thin. If you're involved in illegal activities, we'll find out. Amanda's expression darkened, her confidence giving way to something more sinister. You don't know what you're getting into, she warned, her tone low and threatening. I wouldn't dig too deep if I were you. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, the weight of Amanda's words hanging heavily in the air. Is that a threat? She asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. It's a warning, Amanda shot back. You have no idea how far I'm willing to go to protect my interests. In that moment, Sarah understood the gravity of the situation. Amanda was not just a corporate employee with questionable morals. She was a player in a dangerous game, one that could cost them everything if they didn't tread carefully. Let's not make this personal, Alex said, his voice calm but firm. We just want the truth. If there's nothing to hide, you should have no problem cooperating. Amanda's expression shifted from defiance to something akin to fear, though she masked it well. I've done my job and followed all protocols. If you think you can intimidate me into confessing something I didn't do, you're mistaken. Sarah leaned forward, trying to read Amanda's body language for any signs of deceit. We're not trying to intimidate you. We're trying to protect our company, our jobs, and our integrity. If there's been a mistake, now is the time to come clean. A tense silence enveloped the room as Amanda weighed her options. Look, she finally said, her voice dropping to a whisper. I can't talk about this here. If you really want to know what's going on, meet me after hours in the parking garage. Why should we trust you? Tom interjected, crossing his arms. You've already been evasive. Because if I am being set up, you'll want to know who's really behind this, she shot back. I'll give you names. Just come alone and make sure no one else knows. Let's take this to the police, Tom suggested, glancing at Alex and Sarah. If she's involved in something illegal, we should involve law enforcement. Amanda shook her head vehemently. No police! You'll scare the real players away, And you'll be left holding the bag. If you want answers, meet me tonight. If not, consider this conversation over. With that, she stormed out of the conference room, leaving behind a palpable tension that felt like an ominous cloud hanging over them. We can't let her walk away like that, Sarah said, her mind racing with possibilities. If she knows something, we have to figure out what it is before it's too late. Agreed, Alex said, rubbing the back of his neck, deep in thought. But going alone could be dangerous. We need to be cautious. We could have Mark track her phone, or at least keep an eye on the parking garage, Tom suggested. If something goes wrong, we'll have backup. Let's do it, Sarah replied, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and adrenaline. We need to know what she's hiding. As night fell, Sarah prepared for the meeting. She had relayed her plans to Mark, who promised to keep a watchful eye on Amanda's car. A sense of resolve settled within her. They were venturing into dangerous territory, but the risk felt necessary. When she arrived at the parking garage, the fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that danced ominously along the concrete walls. She parked her car strategically, positioning herself for a quick getaway if needed. Glancing at her watch, she felt a swell of anxiety, unsure of what lay ahead. Minutes later, Amanda's sleek sedan glided into view, and Sarah's pulse quickened. Amanda stepped out, her demeanor eerily calm, and approached Sarah's vehicle with a guarded expression. You came, Amanda said, glancing around as if checking for eavesdroppers. Let's get this over with, Sarah replied, her voice steady but laced with tension. What do you know? Amanda hesitated before stepping closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. There are people in the company who want to take Tom down. They think he's a liability because he won't play along with their plans. They've been watching him, waiting for the right moment to strike. Who are these people? Sarah pressed, her heart racing. I can't tell you that, Amanda replied, her eyes darting nervously. But I've seen the emails. They're planning to frame him for financial misconduct. What? Why? Sarah asked, incredulity rising within her. Because if they can pin something on him, they can take over his projects. They're jealous of his success and want to eliminate him from the equation, Amanda explained, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah felt a rush of anger and fear. You knew about this, and you didn't say anything. I was trying to figure out how to protect myself, Amanda replied, her eyes wide. If I spoke up, I'd be in danger too. I didn't realize how far they'd go. And now, Sarah asked, determination sharpening her focus, what do you want from us? I want immunity, Amanda said, her voice trembling. I'll give you the names and evidence, but you need to promise me protection. If they find out I spoke to you, I'm a dead woman. Before Sarah could respond, a loud noise echoed through the parking garage, making both women jump. The sound of a car door slamming shut echoed ominously, and Sarah's heart raced as she turned to see a figure approaching. Mark. What's going on? He demanded, clearly concerned. I told you to stay away, Amanda hissed, her composure cracking. We don't have time for this, Sarah said, her voice urgent. If what Amanda is saying is true, we're all in danger. Mark stepped closer, his brow furrowed in concern. What do you mean? Let's get out of here, Sarah urged, glancing around for any sign of trouble. We need to get back to the office and secure the evidence. Just as they began to move, the echo of heavy footsteps reverberated through the garage, and shadows shifted in the dim light. A group of men approached, their expressions dark and threatening, intent on confrontation. Look who we have here, one of them sneered, stepping into the light. It was Greg, a senior manager from the finance department who had always shown interest in undermining Tom. What's the plan, Amanda? Going to sell out your friends for a quick payday? He taunted, his eyes glinting with malice. Stay away from us, Sarah shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Amanda, feeling an adrenaline surge. This isn't your business. Actually, it is. You're all meddling in things that don't concern you, Greg replied, taking a menacing step forward. Mark took a protective stance beside Sarah, his expression fierce. We're not afraid of you, Greg. Back off now, or I'll call the police. Greg laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the empty garage. You think the police can help you? You're all too deep in this to escape now. Suddenly, Sarah's mind raced, searching for a way out. We're going to the authorities, Greg. This is over. Is it? He sneered, his expression darkening. We can make this disappear. It's easier that way. Before Sarah could respond, Amanda bolted, sprinting toward the exit, and the men reacted immediately. Get her, Greg shouted, lunging forward. Mark, get her, Sarah yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins as chaos erupted. Mark took off after Amanda, but before he could reach her, one of Greg's accomplices blocked his path, grabbing his arm. Let me go, Mark shouted, struggling to break free. In the confusion, Sarah seized the opportunity. We need to call for help, she urged, fumbling for her phone. But just as she pulled it out, Greg lunged at her, forcing her to the ground. Don't make this harder than it has to be, he threatened, pinning her down. You don't know what you're getting into. No, she screamed, fighting back with all her strength. The struggle felt like it lasted an eternity, but finally Mark managed to shove the attacker away and reached her, grabbing her by the arm. Come on, we have to go, he shouted, pulling her up as the commotion escalated around them. They sprinted toward the exit, hearts pounding as they glanced back to see Greg and his crew still hot on their heels. The parking garage felt like a labyrinth, the shadows closing in around them. We need to split up, Sarah yelled. If they're chasing us, it'll be easier to lose them. No way, Mark replied, breathing heavily. We stick together. As they reached the exit, Sarah spotted Amanda outside, her face pale with fear. Get in the car, she yelled, waving frantically. Go, Mark shouted, pushing Sarah toward Amanda as they sprinted across the pavement. They leapt into the car just as Greg and his men burst through the door. Start the engine, Sarah yelled, her voice frantic. Amanda fumbled with the keys, her hands trembling. I can't find them. Now, Sarah screamed, glancing back to see Greg and the others rushing toward them. Just as they started to climb into the vehicle, the engine roared to life, and Amanda slammed the car into gear. They sped out of the garage, the tires screeching against the pavement. Where do we go? Amanda asked, panic lacing her voice. Anywhere but here, Mark replied, glancing nervously in the rearview mirror. They'll be after us. Sarah took a deep breath, her mind racing as they sped through the streets. We need to get somewhere safe and then call the police. They drove in silence, the tension thick in the air as they navigated the city's winding streets. Finally, they pulled into a secluded diner at the edge of town, hoping to catch their breath. Are we safe? Amanda asked, her voice shaking. For now, Sarah replied, her heart still racing. But we can't let our guard down. They know we're onto them, and they won't stop until they silence us. They huddled together in a booth, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. What do we do now? Amanda asked, her voice barely above a whisper. We need to gather all the evidence we can, Sarah said, her determination resurfacing. If they think they can take Tom down, we have to expose them before they can act. Right, Mark added, his expression fierce. We'll get the emails, everything. We'll take it straight to the police and make sure they understand how serious this is. As they discussed their next steps, the sense of urgency hung over them like a dark cloud. They were entangled in a web of deception and danger. But they were determined to fight back. The stakes were high and they couldn't afford to fail. But little did they know, the danger was only just beginning. The real players in this game were watching, waiting for their next move, and they wouldn't stop until they claimed victory, no matter the cost. Thanks for watching.